Yeah, let's talk Bo Nickal right now.
You want to talk Bo Nickal right now?
Yeah, let's.
So last night on Contender Series, Bo Nickal debuted and just beat the shit out of some poor kid who they were like, his story was he was 3-0, and like, you know, it was like, oh, he started training during the pandemic. It's like, oh,
he grew up in a martial arts gym. That is.
I know.
Right?
But dude, you're talking about a guy who was a 3-time national champion at fucking Penn State.
It was butter knife. You know.
Dude, here's what stood out to me. Now, there was a debate about two things. One, should he have gotten a contract? We'll talk about that in a second. And then two, how ready is he? Let's start with the second one first, because I had a little back and forth with some folks on social media about it. They disagreed. They're like, oh, this guy's ready. Sign him now, which we'll talk about in just a second. He's ready to fight guys in the UFC. BC, I agree that he is ready to beat certain guys in the UFC. He is that good. But you cannot overestimate what lessons you can infer from this. Does he have the wrestling, and it looks like the grappling ability, like his transitions were so fucking smooth, and he's so quick, and it's so effortless for him. Yes, he can beat guys. We haven't even seen him punched in the face. You have no idea how he'll react. What's his cardio look like in the third round? It's probably good.
Well, we've not before you get too far, for anybody that didn't watch it, he won by submission in lightning fast time.
Like it was nothing.
And then instead of being offered a UFC contract, he was offered a UFC developmental contract with the kicker that he would come back on the Contender Series, and if he wins, then you get the full contract.
Yes.
And the initial sort of cynical reaction on MMA Twitter was of like, oh, this song and dance pro wrestling routine, he's obviously good enough, give him the contract. But if we're also going to sit here and fill podcast hours saying, hey, in hindsight, Sage Northcutt, Paige Van Zandt, maybe they were rushed to, you know what I mean? That whole argument, if you're going to do that.
Well, he's a much better athlete than all of them.
But if you're going to do that argument, it kind of makes sense, even though Dana White may be looking at this from a rating standpoint, look, this guy's something, he's hot, let's put him on the Contender Series one more time. But you also still need to see him in these situations. So intangibly, he looks to be a 10 out of 10 in terms of confidence, poise, in terms of speed, transitions. I mean, he's electric.
Like a fucking
he's electric. I'm sure he's tough as shit and all that. But, you know, is he going to go from 2-0 to be fighting a top 15 middleweight? No. So let's. And
also, just there's so many questions. Again, and here's the truth. You're like, well, even if you fought in the regional scene, would you get all those questions answered? No, you wouldn't. You're not going to get all the answers to your questions. But for a guy who has faced literally no resistance.
Yeah.
Does he look like he's the real deal Holyfield? I mean, without question.
He's cool as shit. Can we be honest? He's got a cool vibe.
Dude, and when he beat the guy, he beat him like this was a fucking, like, he beat up you and me or something. Like, it didn't mean shit to him.
Coolest ginger since Canelo, or are you more like
Oh, that's a good question. He's got a little blonde to him, though. He's a little strawberry blonde.
Okay.
Yes, he's obviously good enough. I actually agree with Dana in this one. I agree that he needs a little bit more. Not because I don't think he's ready, but because you just need to make sure as best you can that they've got a couple of T's crossed, a couple of I's dotted. Let's see what it's like if he gets punched. Let's see what it's like if he takes one leg kick and it blows out the nerve in his leg and he has to then wobble around. Like, you just don't know how they're going to respond to anything. Because I have seen, by the way, the Division I national champions. There have been some that have come out. They start taking punches to the face, and it's no mas with them. I'm not saying that's Bo Nickal. I'm saying just being like, oh, yeah, he can go fight UFC guys. Yeah, he can. That's not the fucking point. Now, there was some debate about should they have given him a deal. It's like, dude, we're talking about a company that is being sued by ex-fighters for allegedly predatory practices. Do you really think, and I don't know this to be a fact, but do you think they let him go without putting him on some developmental deal so Bellator could sign him today?
It said,
I know folks were like, well, if I was him, I would go sign with Bellator tomorrow. It's like, I don't think that's in the books. I think that they have him on ice. What they're doing is slow rolling him because he's obviously extremely good.
The way he reacted, okay, look, I think them doing that is also a little bit of a test to see how he responds, and I thought he responded great, meaning he said, okay, I thought that might happen.
I mean, if that's all he has to do, who gives a shit, right?
But like, you would believe that him and his team and management team had an inkling this could happen.
They knew this was going to happen. Right. They knew it was a possibility. He is not a free agent. I guarantee you he is not a free agent. And by the way, they've done this in other ways. Before Contender Series was a big thing, when Mackenzie Dern was fighting in LFA, she had a developmental deal. They do developmental deals all the different times. Guys, he obviously can beat UFC-level fighters, and he probably is going to be
Do you like the ending of the Contender Series where it does get reality TV-like, where the fighters are sitting in their chair, they're sweating, and Dana doesn't really give you an inkling of which direction he's going? He says good and bad about them. It's almost like a Simon Cowell situation.
Well, dude, the opening fight on last night's card was dreadful.
Right, but do you like that is what I'm asking you. Do you like that suspense of not knowing, and is it justified? I kind of like it. I kind of like it.
I think it works for a TV show. The question is, is it great to subject the fighters to it?
Do you think Dana needs a "you're fired" type of punchline?
Or maybe like they could do like the Nickelodeon thing, and he pulls the lever, and then they get slimed with the green slime.